My name is Dr. Tony Barozzino. I'm from the Canadian Pediatric Society in Canada. I'm a general pediatrician in Toronto, which is Canada's largest urban center, a center of about 5 million people. And we are our main location for arrival of immigrant and refugee children to Canada. Today I'm going to be taking a slightly different tack than my colleagues who spoke earlier. I'm assuming that within the audience we're in agreement that immigrant refugee children are highly at risk. And what I'd like to talk to you briefly about is a tool that has been developed by some of my colleagues in Canada that hopefully can help frontline care providers, not just in Canada but around the world, provide care and direct care of immigrant refugee children. This is the website that I'm speaking of. This is the Caring for Kids New to Canada web resource, and this is our home page. And if there's only one thing that you remember today, I hope it's at least the website www.kidsnewtocanada.ca, at least at the end of your time here, if you have an opportunity to peruse it and look through it. I believe that it will be a useful resource and tool for anybody who provides care to the immigrant refugee population. What I thought I would do is very quickly give you some facts about the Canadian immigrant refugee situation, the Caring for Kids New to Canada web resource in terms of how it can help provide care to these children, and a very brief overview of where we stand in one of the most recent situations, the Syrian refugee crisis, which has certainly affected our community quite deeply. So for those of you who don't know, this is Canada. Three territories, 10 provinces, 10 million square kilometers, about 36 million inhabitants, and about 20% of our overall makeup is immigrant or refugee. And this is a map that just sort of outlines where we live. The population, 75% of our population, in fact, is clustered within about 150 kilometers of our southern border. But immigrants and refugees have come to our country for years and years, obviously from all over the world. This is just to highlight that on average, our country has had an influx of approximately 250,000 immigrants and refugees, and this has been a very stable number over the last many years. The type of immigrant class, economic versus family class, has changed somewhat, but overall the numbers remain similar, except for intermittent crises, the Vietnamese crisis, for example, the Kosovan crisis, and now the Syrian crisis. And 20% of children, or 20% of the individuals coming to Canada are children less than 15 years of age, which is quite significant, but matches roughly the number of children present in the Canadian population. And this is not that helpful for individuals who don't know Canada well, but suffice to say the provinces of the country where economic opportunity and like-minded communities exist is where the immigrant refugees tend to go to. But this slide is really just to represent that any place within our country, as vast as it is, can be seen or have residents from out of the migrating there. This is a small community called Whitehorse in northern Canada, 23,000 inhabitants, and even in 2011, 218 permanent immigrants settled there. The countries of origin varies over the years, and I won't belabor this. This is from 2011 data and already extraordinarily out of date. The Roma population from Hungary has obviously been replaced by the Middle Eastern population, and the Philippines and China for permanent residency status has probably been replaced by Middle Eastern and African nations. And I only use this slide to remind people, not that the languages that individuals arrive with at your countries are different, but the language that they speak upon arrival is obviously a potential barrier. In Canada, where the two main languages are English and French, about a quarter of arriving immigrants and refugees report neither English nor French as a language that they speak. And obviously this results in barriers to care, systematic barriers, mistrust barriers, language literacy, cultural barriers, all of which can impact on the ability of immigrants and refugees to seek out care, receive care, and even take up the information from care that is being provided. And culture. Culture also influences healthcare hugely. I use this analogy of the iceberg, which may not be so relevant in Mexico, but we see lots of these in Canada. Culture certainly affects health outcomes, and some of it is quite obvious. But I like to remind people that the component of culture below the surface is very important, and if we forget to pay attention to it, it can have catastrophic consequences to the families that we deal with. And out of that grew the concept of the Caring for Kids New to Canada, which the web resource was conceived in 2011, produced over the next several years, and in 2013 launched with its main objective being to improve the health, equity, and outcomes for all children and youth new to Canada. But the content on the website is actually relevant to any care providers around the world who see this population. And this is just a front page of it. Now, how can the actual web resource help care providers dealing with the immigrant refugee population? Certainly there are practical information that can be provided to you, everything from overview of the immigrant refugee situations both in Canada and abroad, barriers and facilitators that can be monitored and can be used to help with the management of healthcare, medical assessments, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but also resources for families, community resources, settlement resources, cultural competence resources. Less relevant to this audience, but certainly questions that physicians have and frontline workers have in terms of federal coverage. In our community, our federal coverage of immigrants and refugees has varied significantly over the years and has provided areas for confusion and areas where individuals feel that they are either not covered, either the care providers not recognizing the coverage that is available to the individual in front of them, or the families who have arrived in Canada not being aware of the care provision that they are entitled to. The web resource also provides guidelines, checklists, for example, with regards to interpreter services and the importance of interpreter services, and even advice around advocacy for individuals. This can be so that you can provide individual case-based advocacy for your families, so that you can have some systemic advocacy and even policy-related advocacy. Through the web resource and through the resources provided, individuals who provide care to immigrants and refugees can improve their ability and their focus of care provision. Now, what about the actual medical assessment of screening of immigrant refugee children? This is too long a topic to discuss in a 20-minute seminar here, but suffice to say that there are unique needs that individuals being seen in clinic settings have, and that's universal regardless of where they arrive, whether it's with regards to accuracy of information from their health records or any information, frankly, whether it has to do with differences in treatment of health conditions, be they mental health, physical health, or developmental issues, and even undiagnosed congenital issues. We've seen many individuals with undiagnosed problems or under-recognized problems that have not been treated. And so the first few contacts with immigrants and refugees new to the country, these issues need to be kept in mind. The web resource also provides you with guidelines for taking of history, not because history and physical examination is different to care providers on the front line, but it allows an opportunity to focus in on the particular areas that we know the immigrant refugee population struggles with and are at higher risk for. We also provide information and tools for individuals who want to develop their cultural competence. Knowing where your patient comes from, both literally and figuratively, is extraordinarily important to allowing you to provide the appropriate care. It's not just about language and literacy, it's about understanding culture, understanding the importance of healthcare, understanding how care is perceived by the individuals who are being seen in your communities, and understanding how their supports will help them through their transition into the new community. This is probably more important than the entire rest of the talk. The fact that the long-term health care and health benefit to the populations that we see is really underpinned by things like resettlement, development of literacy and language skills, economic opportunities and evolution into jobs and education, things that have less to do with the actual medical side of things, but certainly underpin the success of refugee populations and immigrant populations transitioning to any country. And the medical assessment itself can obviously be also guided through this web resource. And again, this is an entire 90-minute symposium unto itself, but the medical assessment of immigrant and refugees, this web resource was developed with the best evidence available, and where there was no true evidence, consensus from expert opinion was derived. It's even divided by the location of migration to help care providers hone their focus in terms of how to evaluate the individual who is in front of them at that particular moment. And as well, there are other aspects, other testing considerations, other resources that can be selected and used. And despite the fact that these are, so to speak, marketed for the Canadian population, I think that the overall content, is particularly the medically based or the clinically based content, is universal. It's not meant to be specific to the Canadian experience, and we encourage individuals to certainly take an opportunity and look through this web resource. Screening has also been discussed. I think individuals have discussed the importance of immunization. There's guidelines that are translated in multiple languages. This is a guideline produced by our Public Health Agency of Canada, which is currently available in English, French, Arabic, and within the next 4 weeks, Spanish, Punjabi, Chinese, Korean, and Russian. Hearing screening, vision screening, dental screening, all of which can be accessed, not just the who to screen, but how to screen, what we're screening for, and the resources that are available. And even mental health. I skipped over that slide, but obviously the mental health and psycho-emotional well-being of the children arriving in this country can be accessed. This is just an example, PTSD in particular, which has been a concern, particularly with the Syrian population, and even information about international adoption. Now, how about the Syrian situation currently and the challenge that it has placed on our borders? This is our entry site to the Syrian-specific page that has a number of additional links and resources available for individual care providers. Again, the destination is not important to you, but suffice to say that every province and every territory in Canada is receiving individuals from around Syria. This slide is predominantly the government-assisted, privately sponsored, and blended visa office referred refugees. The main thing I want you to concentrate on is, in fact, the significant percentage that are children. I think this slide probably shows it better. The first 5 bars on each one of these is representative of a population of children and young adults. From our cohort right now, about 57% of the individuals arriving from Syria are children less than 15, and about 30% of the privately sponsored are children less than 15. The average size of a family arriving is around 5. And again, as people have mentioned, this causes huge strain on the system, both in terms of resettlement and housing, but medical care as well as mental health and developmental care. Pre-arrival, this is information directly from the World Health Organization and the UN Refugee Agency. Huge percentages of these individuals arrive with severe emotional disorders, the usual gastrointestinal and respiratory and skin issues that you would expect to see when having spent large periods of time in refugee camps, and many traumas and injuries as well, some predating their time in the refugee camps, but many from the refugee camps themselves. And what we've actually seen on the ground, and this is information predominantly from my province, which is the province of Ontario, but which has taken a significant percentage of the children from Syria. Respiratory infections, varicella, severe dental caries, low medical literacy, some of these overall literacy extraordinarily low, huge need for mental health and complex medical issues. And our hope is that by sharing these experiences with our colleagues around North America and the world, we are able to come to some central tenets of care provision. Certainly the importance of recognizing the mental health aspect for these children and the physical aspect as well, recognizing the need to incorporate and improve their ability to transition into our communities, and being open in terms of our communication style and our interpreters as well, will make our jobs that much easier. This is still a massive crisis. It's going to continue. Political, geopolitical issues, climate change, there are many issues that will be driving the movement of people around the world and around the globe. This issue is just going to become bigger and bigger, and our hope is with sharing of information at conferences like these and through the web resources that are available, we can provide better care to this population of children whatever country they arrive in. Thank you very much.